Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments, and keep up with our latest naughty stories. When I agreed to babysit that evening, I thought I knew exactly what to expect. A few hours of spilled juice, cartoons blaring in the background, and maybe a tantrum or two before bedtime. It was supposed to be simple, predictable, and uneventful. But life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it. That night, instead of the usual chaos of babysitting, I found myself swept up in a whirlwind of emotions I hadn't felt in years. I wasn't there for anything more than to help out a responsible adult stepping in for a neighbor. But as the hours ticked by, the laughter that filled the living room wasn't just the child's. It was mine too. And somewhere between the giggles and the quiet moments, something long buried inside me began to stir. It wasn't the child who caught me off guard that night. It was his older brother, Tyler, who had recently come home from college. When Tyler walked through the door, I wasn't prepared for the way my heart would skip a beat. One smile from him, and suddenly I wasn't just a babysitter anymore. I was alive again. For years, I had felt invisible, like I was fading into the background of my own life. In my early 40s, I had become everything to everyone else: a caretaker, a provider, a nurturer. But somewhere along the way, I had stopped being seen as a woman. That night, Tyler changed that dot when my neighbor asked me to watch her youngest on a quiet Friday night. I had agreed without hesitation. It seemed like an easy way to pass the time, a distraction from my own quiet, uneventful life. I had no idea that the evening would awaken something inside me that I thought was gone forever. The night started as expected. We played hide and seek, scattered plastic dinosaurs across the floor, and laughed until my cheeks hurt. By the time the clock struck 9, I had managed to tuck the sleepy-eyed boy into bed, reading his favorite story until his breathing slowed and he drifted off into dreams. I tiptoed out of his room, careful not to wake him, and collapsed onto the couch, tired but content. I was scrolling through my phone, mindlessly passing the time when the front door creaked open. My heart jumped not out of fear, but surprise. I stood quickly, smoothing my dress over my hips, and turned toward the sound. And there he was, Tyler. It had been over a year since I'd last seen him, and college had changed him. He had filled out, matured in ways that were impossible to ignore. There was an effortless confidence in the way he moved, a quiet strength that hadn't been there before. His deep brown eyes met mine, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. "Hey," he said, his voice low and warm. "Thanks for watching him tonight." I mumbled something about it being no problem, brushing a loose strand of hair behind my ear. Suddenly, I was far too aware of my faded jeans and simple top. But Tyler didn't seem to notice, or maybe he did, in a way that made my cheeks flush. He dropped his bag by the door, shrugged off his jacket, and revealed a fitted t-shirt that hugged his broad shoulders. He moved around the room with an easy familiarity, as if he still belonged there. It made me feel both strangely at ease and completely unsettled. Then he dropped onto the couch opposite me, stretching out his long legs and giving me that smile again. "You always were my favorite neighbor," he teased, a playful glint lighting up his eyes. I laughed, the tension loosening just enough to let the moment breathe. Soon, we were lost in easy conversation. We talked about his classes, his ambitions, and how much the neighborhood had changed. It was natural, smooth in a way most conversations no longer felt. I leaned in closer without realizing it, drawn to the warmth of his attention. The way his eyes lingered just a little too long on my lips, my hands, my expression, it made my heart race. It had been years since I'd felt that kind of focus, that quiet, restrained hunger that needed no explanation. At one point, he leaned back, stretching his arms as his shirt rose to reveal a flash of toned skin. I looked away quickly, my heart thudding wildly. I told myself he was young, just being friendly. I had to be imagining it. But then he shifted toward me, our knees brushing, and suddenly the room felt heavier, thicker with something we weren't saying. It wasn't my imagination. Tyler saw me not as the friendly neighbor, not as someone's mother, not as a helpful adult. He saw me as a woman he wanted, We sat like that for hours, our conversation dipping into quieter, more vulnerable places. He asked about my dreams, my regrets, the version of life I wanted beyond this small, silent town. No one had asked me questions like that in ages. His curiosity wasn't probing, it was pure, disarming. It unlatched something inside me I didn't even know was still closed. He wasn't judging me. He was seeing me. And it left me breathless. Midnight came and went, but neither of us moved to say goodbye. The house was hushed, broken only by the soft groan of old wood. The lamp's glow cast golden shadows across Tyler's face, tracing the curve of his jaw and the gentle calm in his expression. I realized I was staring. When I glanced away, he chuckled. "You're beautiful, you know?" he said. His voice hushed like it was a secret meant only for me. The words hit like thunder. It wasn't just what he said. It was the way he said it, like it had always been true. My throat tightened, tears springing to my eyes before I laughed them off and shook my head. "You're just being sweet," I said softly. He leaned forward, close enough for me to feel the warmth of his breath. "I mean it," he murmured, brushing his fingers lightly against mine. It was barely a touch, but it lit something in me that had long gone dark. I had forgotten what it felt like to be looked at like that, to be wanted entirely, even with every flaw laid bare. I let myself lean in, just a little. Just enough to remember that once upon a time, I was someone's dream. Sitting across from Tyler, I felt like maybe I still could be. When he finally stood, the silence between us deepened. He hesitated like he wanted to say more, but instead he smiled a slow, knowing thing and wished me good night before disappearing into the guest room. I remained there, wrapped in the quiet hum of the lamp's glow, my pulse still racing, my skin alive. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. I felt awake. I swallowed hard, unsure what to say. A voice inside me warned that this wasn't right, that I should send him back. But the lonelier voice, the one buried deep, asked for something else. A nodded slow quiet, not trusting my voice it was all the invitation he needed. Tyler stepped inside and closed the door, pinned him, shutting out. The rest of fueled, he approached cautiously as if afraid I'd change my mind. I pulled the blanket back, wordless, making room for him. He slid in beside me, fully clothed, the mattress dipped with his weight. For a moment, we lay there side by side, a careful space between us, my body wasted, every nerve strung tight. Yet as the silence stretched on us, warmth began to radiate toward mesm of the fear, began toes softening into something deeper, something heavier, something dangerously sweet. I turned, my head slightly drawn by an invisible pull, and found his eyes already on me, quiet, intense, and filled with a tenderness that made my breath catch you. "Shouldn't be here," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I know," he murmured, but didn't move away neither. Did I feel as if something unseen was drawing us closer, a thread stronger than reason, stronger, thanfer? When he reached up to brush a strand of hair from my face, I shivered beneath the gentle contact. His fingertips lingered at my cheek, featherlight, like he was committing every inch off me to memory. Slowly, cautiously, Helen and I could have stopped him. Maybe I should have, but when his lips to Shedman, soft, uncertain, and melted, a sigh escaped me as I leaned into the kiss, my hands drifting to his shoulders. For balance, for grounding, Tyler kissed me with reverence, as if he knew just how delicate this moment truly was. His lips coaxed mine to part, deepening the kiss. And something instant broke open, loneliness, longing, all the feelings I'd bottled up came pouring out, flooding the space between us. His hands slid down my arms, over my waist, pulling me closer. I clutched at his shirt like it was the only solid thing in a world I no longer trusted. His touch was patient, deliberate, leaving space for hesitation. I never offered because I didn't want to stop. I didn't want to pull away, needed this, needed him. Every stroke of his finger, savory, soft caress was a reminder that I was still here, still human, still wanted. He kissed along my jaw, down the curve of me neck, each brush of his mouth igniting sparks that danced across my skin. I urged into him, craving more, desperado, feel every inch of him. Against me, his shins explored with reverence and urgency, as if he were learning me shape by shape, breath by breath. Then he paused, eyes searching mine. "Are you sure?" he whispered, voice tight with restraint. I cupped his face in my hands and nodded. Yes, I breathed. I want this, I want you. That was all it took. Tyler kissed me again, this time with hunger and whatever walls we had left dissolved. His hands slid beneath the hem off my shirt, lifting it with care, revealing bare skin to his gaze. He looked at me as if I was something rare-smithing he had longed to touch, but never believed heckled clothing slipped away piece by piece until there was nothing between us but warmth, breath, and the weight off shared need. His hands roamed my body like he was discovering a secret he'd only dreamed about. Every kiss, every whispered word drew me deeper into him, into us. He adored me with his hands, with his mouth, with the quiet devotion in his touch. And when he finally entered me, it wasn't rushed. It was slow, deep, reverent. Soft gasp left me as I felt the fullness of him, the way he moved with deliberate. Tears welled up without warning, tears of release, off gratitude, of something too vast to name it. He kissed them away as they slipped down my cheeks. Tyler moved within me with our heaven that felt sacred, each motionless with reverence. Every caress, every thrust built a crescendo that left my breathless, trembling gun down. We moved together like it was inevitable, like it had always been meant to be, a dance older than memory. He whispered my name like a vow, Hishans, framing my face as if to hold me in place, like he feared I might vanish. But I didn't. I stayed, and in his arms I felt whole. If he did not hold me close, I clung to him, my fingers digging into his holders, meeting the solid, reassuring reasons of him as the pleasure-built tone, unbearable peak. When release finale came, it ripped through me like a tidal wave, leaving me gasping and clinging to him as he followed me over the edge. We collapsed together, tangled and breathless, the world narrowing down to a shared heartbeat between us. For a long moment, we just lay there wrapped around each other, the weight of what we had in hanging in the air. But there was no regret, no shame, only a quiet, overwhelming sense of rightness. Tyler pressed soft kisses against my forehead, my cheeks, my lips, murmuring sweet nothings that made my heart attain the best possible way. I held him close, letting myself believe, if only for a night, that I could be more than what life had tried to reduce me to. That I could still be seen, desired, loved. The night stretched on around us, the house silent, the world outside forgotten. In Tyler's arms, I found something I had thought I had lost forever, a piece of myself that had been buried under years of loneliness and self-doubt, and sleepingly claimed me safe and warm against his chest. I knew that no matter what a morrow would bring, tonight was Minier's morning. Crept in slowly, sunlight filtering through the curtains in soft muted streams. I stirred, feeling the unfamiliar weight of Tyler's arm draped over me. For a fleeting moment, I allowed mist to sink deeper into the warmth, pretending that this was not complicated, that this was something I deserved withoutance. His steady breathing against me neck grounded me in a way that nothing else had in years. But reality, cruel and unforgiving, began to seep back into my consciousness. I was not some carefree woman who could fall into a lover's arms without thought. I was a mother, a guardian of trust, and Tyler was far more than just a fleeting temptation. Guilt clawed at my chest, even as my body still ached for him, for thecklessness we had shared. Slowly, carefully, I slipped out from under his arm, feeling the cold rush in where his warmth had been. He stirred but did not wake. His fist relaxed in a way that made my heart whisk painfully. I watched him for a moment longer, memorizing the boyish curve of his mouth, the way his lashes rested against his cheek. 1,000 questions screamed inside my head. What have we done? What would happen now? Could we pretend it never happened, bury it under the silence of morning light? I gather at me close, silently, heart pounding with every tiny sound that echoed in the stillness of the house. Each step away from him felt like tearing myself apart, but I forced myself to keep moving and pulled on my robe and crept out of Farum, closing the door behind me with agonizing slowness. The hallway felt different, no hiver, somehow like the walls themselves had witnessed my fall from grace. In the kitchen, I gripped that counter, breathing hard, trying to summon some version of myself that could make sense of this mess. Coffee seemed like a most normal thing to do, the most human. As I waited for it to brew, I stared blankly out the window, watching the world wake up, pretending for a few fragile moments that mine had not just been turned upside down. When Tyler appeared in the doorway, rumpled and uncertain, my breath caught in my throat. His eyes met mine, and for a second neither of us spoke. Words felt too small, too clumsy for the enormity of what lay between us. He stepped closer, his hand reaching out instinctively, then stopping midair as if unsure whether he still had me right about last night. He began, his voice raw. I shook my head, silencing him. I could not hear it, not yet. If he said it was a mistake, it would shatter something delicate inside me. If he said it meant something, it would terrify him even more. I turned away, busying myself with pouring the coffee, my hands trembling just enough to spill a few drops. Tyler crossed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hand covering, negligently stilling the shaking. I refused. Tommy, his eyes afraid of what I might see, their pity, regret, or worse, tenderness. I had no right to claim. You are not alone, say quietly. That broke me. The demon inside me, the one I had held together for so long, cracked open. I choked out Abercon laughed, tears spilling down my cheeks faster than I could wipe them away. Tyler pulled me into his arms without hesitation, holding me tightly as he wept against his chest. He did not try to hush me, did not tell me it would be okay. He simply held me, his embrace solid and unwavering. When the storm inside definitely began to ebb, I pulled back slightly, wiping at my face with trembling fingers. Tyler cupped my chin, forcing me to look at him. I do not regret it, me said fiercely. Not 1 second. His words both soothed and terrified me. I wanted to believe him, tore at myself in the safety he offered, but a voice of doubt was louder. How could this possibly? And well, he was young with his whole life ahead of him. I was just a brief detour, a chapter he would eventually outgrow still. When he leaned down and kissed me slowly, tenderly, like had all the time in the world, I left him. I let myself forget for a little longer. The day passed in a haze of stolen glances and cautious touches. Tyler stayed close, never pushing, never demanding, simply there whenever I faltered. We cooked breakfast together, hands brushing the air thick with unspoken words. When he laughed at some stupid joke, I made the sound filled the house with a lightness I had almost forgotten existed, and yet beneath that laughter the tension simmered. In an undercurrent of fear and longing we both pretended not to notice. As night fell again, the weight of choice settled heavier on my shoulders. I knew this could not continue. No matter how much my heart protested, love or whatever fragile thing had blossomed between us was not always enough to bridge the gap between reality and dreams. When Tyler reached out for my hand as we sat on the couch, he held it tightly, savoring the feeling. Even a tears blurred my vision. Maybe we're not meant to last. Maybe this was just eminent, fleeting, and beautiful and tragic in its impossibility. But it was hours and fortnight that would have to be now. The next morning, the air felt heavier, filled with an unspoken understanding. Tyler stood beside me, his arm tightening around my waist, as if could delay the inevitable. But Webbeth knew reality had already caught up to use. I turned to face him, memorizing every detail. His warm eyes, the slight curve of his lips, the way he looked at me like I was something precious. Why cannot stay like this? I whispered, my voice breaking. Tyler's jaw tensed, but nodded slowly. He was young with dreams he had to chase, and I was a woman who had loved too much to ask him to stay trapped. In my story, as much as it treated me, I knew letting go was the all my kindness I could offer. We spent the last hours wrapped in each other, speaking little, holding on to the fleeting connection that had defied reason and time. When he finally stood at the Dorset case in hand, he turned back one summer, a sad smile on his face. You made me feel seen, he said. You made me feel loved. Just like that, he was gone. I closed the door, gently resting my forehead against the wood. I knew life would move forward the way it always did, but I would carry this secret place inside me, a memory of a night when 2 broken souls found each other, even if just for a moment, and remembered how it felt to be whole.